All right, welcome to another edition of Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. You follow me, I'll follow you back. And I am joined by a special guest here, Allison Koehler. How you doing, Allison?
I'm great, Gene. How about yourself, man?
I am doing good. I'm glad to have you on. And as I mentioned, you are a friend of the show before we came on, and you're always welcome to come on. You've made some moves since the last time you've been on. I think you were at camp last
hmm
year, and I had you on live when
hmm
you were right at $1, and
Yeah,
and since then you've kind of moved on, and you're doing a lot of other things now. And how's everything going for you?
everything's great. Yeah, I'm working now for Steelers Wire, which is a subsidiary of USA Today. They have a USA Today has 32 websites covering all the teams. So and Steelers Wire, the Steelers are my team, so I'm feeling right at home with that. That's for sure. It's it's
Yeah.
been it's been really wonderful, kind of, because I mean I've been a Steelers fan since I was like 6 months old, but
Hmm.
and I followed them, you know what I
Hmm.
mean, but never I I was never really like um I never really had to, dig into so much of their history. And I mean,
Hmm.
I knew what I knew, and that was it, because I didn't have to research anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just knew what I heard throughout the years. And
Yeah.
so having to write articles and things, especially because, there hasn't been any camps, there were no OTAs. You kind of have to kind of go back and, you know, dig into the Super Bowls and dig into, stats of like
Uh-huh.
historical things, and just to kind of find stories, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, based on what's already happened in the past, since
So
there's
so
nothing.
how does that work out living in Tampa? And
Mm-hmm.
I it'd probably be like me living in Arizona, being so
Mm-hmm.
far removed from Tampa, and just trying to keep up on everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
How is that gonna, with everything that's going on with COVID-19?
Right.
How does that affect the stories that you write, or how does that all factor in?
Well, I mean, the good thing is, I'm thankful for the internet. um, we don't. Most of the wires. I mean, I'm sure some of the wire sites have writers that live in the actual cities that they're the teams
Hmm.
that they're covering, but pretty much I watch social media as closely as I can. And the Steelers have meetings with Pittsburgh area media like
Uh-huh.
once a month. Sometimes Tomlin does video calls with reporters and things. So
So do you get to
you
get
know
involved? Do you get to get involved with that as well?
right, yeah, so it's virtual, which is great, which is great. Um So yeah, so I just basically, anytime they have some kind of Zoom call with the media, I basically just, write snippets. Sometimes you can get
Okay.
3 or 4 stories,
Yeah,
out of
and you're
those
you're
calls
one hell of a
alone,
writer
depending on.
too, so that's greatly appreciated. One of the
Yeah,
other reasons, one of the big reasons that I wanted to have you on, and I've been a huge advocate for this, is
mm-hmm,
women in journalism, and I
mm-hmm,
want that to become the norm. Women in sports, period. I mean,
mm-hmm,
male dominated sports. I
mm-hmm,
think that needs to be the norm, that you see a female reporter, you see a female, analyst. It needs to
mm-hmm.
become normalized. It needs to be something that we're not saying, oh, she's a female journalist, or
Right.
look, we have a female. That needs to be the norm.
Mm-hmm,
What you're able to do, and
mm-hmm,
the fact that you are such a good writer, and
mm-hmm,
people recognize that you are putting out good content.
mm-hmm,
There needs to be more of that. That needs to be normalized. And I just want you to know I appreciate the work. When you were writing for Bucks Report, and what the
mm-hmm,
articles you were putting out, they were very
mm-hmm,
well thought out, and I thought you did great work at that time too. I've been still, since you moved on, I've been following your writing, and
mm-hmm,
again, I think you're a great writer.
mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, there's definitely it's definitely starting to change. I mean, I think that there's 10%, maybe less, in terms of writers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably I'm probably missing like sports broadcasters, like video broadcasters and
Yeah,
things.
when
but
we're not including those in what you're talking about here.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, but it definitely seems like, it's everywhere I look that there's some kind of, and I support, women writers. So, it's really good when I, get online and I see, a byline of a female's byline, it's like, hey, that's great. You know what I mean? Like there's, and they know, what they're talking about, which is,
and this is the thing.
I mean?
This is where I wanted to, this is what I want to change. I want it to be like, oh, okay, there's another writer on.
Right, exactly.
That's where I wanted to get to. When you're good, when you're a good writer, you're a good writer.
Right.
And that's what it should all come down to, is what your content is, not your gender.
Right, exactly. And I think the reason why it's that way right now is because there's so few of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That when you see like Ashley Brown, you know what I mean? Like, okay, well that's a female writer, because there's so few of us right now, that I think, once that starts to change more, tips the scale in the other direction, I think that it won't be really until then that we'll just be like, oh, a sports writer versus, oh, it's a female sports writer. So yeah.
There's a podcaster, they are on Twitter, EMT Ashley, and she does great work. She can actually throw analytics at people. And there was one guy that got so flustered that he was like, women should not be talking about sports. And I could not believe that, I'm thinking, wow, did we get a time machine back to the 50s here? That's kind of what I'm thinking. But again, as we see more and more journalists out there that female journalists, I think this is going to change, because you'll have to normalize it. Just like the coaches. And this is what I really appreciated about Bruce Arians, and I always have, is that if you're good, you're getting a chance. It's not based on your gender. It's not based on anything else. It's just kind of how it is. So that's kind of what I've gotten from Bruce, is the fact that he's giving people opportunities.
Yes.
So what I would like to do, is kind of get because you are in Tampa right now, what are your thoughts on what's been going on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I mean, have you been following? Of course you have to follow that. That's Tom Brady's here. Rob Gronkowski is here. What are your thoughts? I mean, as far as the moves that they've made, when you've looked at this team in the time that you've been there, how big of a change is this in your opinion?
Yeah, it's astronomical. I mean, I'll be honest, when there was talk, like right before he came to Tampa, and people were like, oh, before it was official, people was like, oh, Tom Brady's coming to Tampa. I'm like, yeah, right. Stop it. You know what I mean? That's never going to happen. Why would he come to Tampa?
One of our, check this out. One of our listeners, he kept telling me, Tom Brady's coming to Tampa. Tom Brady's coming to Tampa. And I just would roll my eyes at him, and I was like, man, please go on with that, man. Tom Brady is not coming to Tampa. And then as sure as I'm sitting here, Tom Brady is in Tampa, and I'm the next week I'm like, you know what? I was wrong. I'm not afraid to admit I'm wrong.
Right.
I'm wrong a lot. So it's not a problem for me to admit that. But for you, when you first heard the news, and I know you were as dismissive as I was, how did that, as you were following along with this, what were your thoughts along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I was really happy for the organization. I was like, wow, this is big time right here. The Super Bowl is in Tampa this year, and like, what better timing? You know what I mean? And personally, though, I was like, man, Tom Brady is just he's always been that athlete that I've loved to hate. You know what I mean?
That's
so
him.
I'm like, okay, well, if he's leaving, like originally when he was leaving New England, I was like, oh, okay, well, he'll go to like the Raiders, or he'll go to somewhere where I'll never have to see him again. And sure, they picked the Tampa. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And then of course all my friends are like, oh my God, Tom Brady's in Tampa, and I'm just like, yeah.
Have you had to write any stories regarding Tom Brady or anything like that yet?
No, I haven't. So, I'm just, I have seen, I heard not too long ago that he was, working out in some park in Tampa. And
Yeah,
I
he's
was
working out at
like,
the school.
wow,
Yeah.
so yeah, he's him Gronk. Yeah, because it was one thing for Tom Brady to come here, and then Gronkowski came here. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is gonna be an insane season, and I just can't. I'm looking forward to it all, really starting. We're still several months away from what will be the start of the season.
Yeah. If everybody
But,
if everybody plays along and does what
right,
does their
yeah,
part, I could really
yeah.
see that.
Yeah, I
So
hope so. I hope, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it seems like every day there's more and more cases,
yeah.
especially, with teams, and they're just over a month away from the start of training camp. So it's going to be interesting. And a lot can happen in a month.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows? They may end up having so many cases to where they're just like, we can't do this, but hopefully not. My fingers are crossed. I'm trying to remain optimistic.
Yeah. So what have you been doing, during this pandemic? Has it been easier for you to write articles or just how has this worked out? Has this worked out for you, or has it been kind of hard?
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, I was a year and a half ago, I was an executive assistant at the Alliance of American Football. So and for like 20 years I was working in an office, as an admin. So when the Alliance folded, I was like, I'm going to try this writing thing, and see how it goes. And I've loved it. I mean, I love freelancing. I love, the freedom of being able to, I mean, I work a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's like, I can work when I want, you know what I mean? Like if I've got an appointment, I don't have to tell anybody, you know what I mean? Like I don't have somebody,
but your quality of work is a big part of it as well, because you have to be able to sell yourself to a company and say, hey, this is my work, this is what I do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it really hasn't changed much for me. The only thing I would say that's been difficult is because there were no OTAs, and training camp was delayed, and for the longest time people couldn't gather, players couldn't congregate, so there was really nothing
this
going
kind of
on
works on your creativity a little bit then, I'm thinking.
Right, yeah, it really does. I mean, I wrote this piece that had like this huge impact. Next year at the end of this season, Mike Tomlin, Ben Roethlisberger, and a general manager, Kevin Colbert, all their contracts expire at essentially the same time. And
wow.
And so I wrote this piece because there's nothing else to write about. And this was like in March, I think I wrote it. And it was just it's just one of those things where, okay, they all expire. They haven't been extended yet. Like it's a possibility. Like, sure, I was, reaching, you know what I mean? But that's what you have to do these days is you kind of have to write about contracts expiring in 2021. You know what I mean?
Because exactly, because that's kind of where it is.
But I got a lot of flack from people like, focus on now, and it's like there's nothing going on right now. So I think I think there are a lot of readers that do appreciate the creativity, but then there's a lot of readers that are just
I think that's important. I think that's important. And it's kind of segueing back here to the Bucks. You look at Tom Brady's only going to be here for 2 years.
Right.
And then you talked about you talked about the former quarterback, and he's moved on. And now when Tom Brady's gone, you're looking at you have to consider a starting quarterback. You with this upcoming draft, you almost have to look at a potential starting quarterback, unless you get somebody in free agency. And again, that's not, you have to get somebody young, if that's the case. And it's basically a rental. So it's like, what do you do? And so I'm thinking about your article. You're looking at, Mike Tomlin and all the success Mike Tomlin has had. You look at I look at Bill Cowher, I look at Mike Tomlin, two great head coaches that have both been successful. I lean more towards Mike Tomlin because he was here in Tampa for a while, but no,
Right.
I'm not going to put that out there, of course. But but that's just kind of where we are right now. You have to be creative. I mean, I could easily talk about just everything that we've that's been going on since the off season, but there's so many other things out there. There's so many other teams, and I think it would be a travesty of justice. And I've said this since COVID-19 reared its ugly head. If the NFL season did not play out, I look at all the different scenarios out there. You look at what's going on in Cleveland and how they've reloaded with their team. I don't know how that,
we'll see.
And then you look at Pittsburgh, you look at the Ravens, you look at the Bucks, even Carolina, a bipolar team. This is a team that looks nothing like they did last year going into this new season.
Right.
The New Orleans Saints is probably the only consistent team. Them in Atlanta, who I hate more than life itself.
Right.
But they're when I look at those teams, they're teams that have made drastic changes. And you look at the Colts. I mean, with Phillip Rivers, who ever thought Phillip Rivers is the starting quarterback in Indianapolis?
Yeah.
I'm just like, wait a minute, this is what kind of bizarro world are we living in right now,
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's even when the last week when the first pictures of Tom Brady in a Buccaneers uniform came out, I was like, what? Like that's like I've known for months.
It just doesn't you can't wrap your head around it, right?
No. It's really just very strange. Very strange.
So I have to ask you, as a lifelong AFC person, how happy are you that Tom Brady is now in the NFC?
Oh, I'm really happy. I'm very happy, but now my only thing is what if the Steelers and the Bucks go to the Super Bowl? You know what I mean? You think about those things, you know what I mean? You don't have to worry about, the conferences now, and now you have to worry about the ultimate game, but that could be kind of cool to see Brady and Roethlisberger in the Super Bowl. I mean, that'd be pretty exciting, I think.
So I have to ask you when we're, because I haven't really got to follow the Steelers, and I think it's great to have you on right now. Not a lot going on in the off season.
Right.
What improvements have the Steelers made? Have this in your mind, just based on last season, 2019, going into the off season, have the Steelers made enough moves to put themselves in a position to be competitive? Because when I look at the Baltimore Ravens, Jesus Christ. They scare me. That is the most, that to me in the NFL, if I had to look at all the teams out there, the Baltimore Ravens scare me more than anybody else. If I had to say, I would not want to see a team face these guys, Lamar Jackson and company, just because of the moves that they've made. And they've made some moves that I'm just like, wow, I just want to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, so I was watching the draft real close, and I thought the Steelers really needed a running back because James Conner just hasn't been reliable. When he's healthy, he's great, but 9 times out of 10, he's not healthy. So I was like, well, they can't rely on him, coming back and playing a full season. So I thought they really need to address the running back situation. And J.K. Dobbins was on the board because they didn't have a first round pick because they traded that for Minkah Fitzpatrick, which is amazing. And
you know what? That was an amazing pick. I was very upset the Bucks did not try to get Minkah Fitzpatrick. I felt that was a need, and I felt that at his age with his skill set, he would have that secondary would have been in a great position at that time. But what the Steelers have done. Again, they continue to stay competitive every year.
Right. Yeah, so he made an immediate impact. But going back to the draft, J.K. Dobbins was there, and the Steelers didn't take him, and they went with Chase Claypool instead, which awesome. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully he'll. But I just didn't think that the need for a wide receiver was as deep as it was for a running back, and of course, the Ravens took him, and I'm like, You know what I mean? Like, not only did I want the Steelers to take him, but the Ravens took him. So now we have to just face him, and it's just like,
so I have to, at this point, I have to ask you, when you take a step back and you're looking at the draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers, how would you grade their draft?
I personally I'm grading it obviously like everybody else. Like
I know this because there's nothing else to talk about. I'm putting this out here, but realistically, we all know that it takes 3 years to really genuinely grade a draft.
I'm saying a B- because I think that a lot of their draft picks, and they were smart, you know what I mean, because they know that, and I'm sure a lot of teams know, with the limited offseason that they're going to have, not a lot of teams' draft picks are going to come in and be able to play right away.
Impact players.
You know what I mean? So, So they drafted developmental players. For the majority of their draft was developmental players. And that's cool because if you think about it, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of rookies this year that are going to be able to come in and supplant veterans simply because they just aren't. There's just not enough time.
Right.
So, exactly. I mean, Chase Claypool is really the only one. And maybe Kevin Dotson, they drafted a guard out of Louisiana. So, Louisiana Lafayette, actually. So,
you know what? The little schools are starting to get noticed with some of these offensive linemen. And it's long overdue.
Yeah, and he's a beast, man. Yeah. So
I've been watching him. He was somebody that I would have loved to have seen come to Tampa. I thought that he's a name, and he's one of those guys that you're going to quietly hear about him over the next 3-4 years. You're going to see him progress to get better and better.
Yeah, definitely. And so they ended up going with a running back in the 4th round, Anthony McFarland out of Maryland. And I was like good. I said, I was still kind of hurt about the whole J.K. Dobbins thing. But I'm like, hey, man, he's fast. You know what I mean?
He's scary
he's a
good.
Speedy dude.
I've watched him, and I've watched I've watched some of the game film on him, and I believe that his skill set translates to the NFL. And you heard it right here. He's one of those guys. He's going to be a problem for the for your division. So, when I look at, and not to take anything away from the Steelers, but when I look at the Baltimore Ravens and how they consistently draft in the trenches, that's one of their strong suits. And I look at other teams within the NFL. I'm trying to think of another team that drafts like the Ravens do, and maybe Pittsburgh, and the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys and what they do with the offensive line. Not so much the defensive line, but the offensive line. And you guys, your general managers realize the importance of these players. And, it's just one of those things that I wish our organization would look at the draft in that way. But again, here we are. This is what we have, and these are the players we're going into the 2020 season with. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all this works.
Yeah. But to go back to your question, you had asked about the improvements that they made. And I just have to say, all I can say is Ben Roethlisberger, because if he's healthy and all signs are pointing to yes, and everybody's saying how he's going to come back stronger. And I mean, really, he had an injury, and it occurred in the second week of the season. So he's had almost a year off. You know what I mean? He's had all this time to rehab. He's had extra time this off season to kind of take care of himself. And so if he can come back, because they were 8-8 last season.
So do you think that time off has given him a chance to refresh his body? Because I was looking at him, and he looks like a lumberjack.
Right. Yeah. Right. He does. And it's funny because they've been showing pictures of him lately, and he actually looks really
he looks like an offensive lineman. Okay, I'm gonna say it. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say He looks like a center or maybe a guard that you're gonna put out there. That's what he looks like to me.
yeah, you never know. You never know with the Steelers. If they need to, they may just do that. Yeah. So yeah. Hopefully, if Ben can be, because like I said, they were 8-8 last season, and that was relying on their defense. I mean, there's no other way to put that, because they were horrible offensively.
The quarterback situation was atrocious.
It was, and I'm still concerned. I mean, if something happens.
So let me ask you this. I mean, when we're talking, and this is these are the guys. This is the catalyst for the team is the quarterback. How are they looking? I mean, if and God forbid, and I'm not wishing this on anybody, because I would not do that. But if Big Ben goes down, how comfortable, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with the Pittsburgh Steelers if your starting quarterback goes down?
Yeah, I would say a 2.
I hate Mason Rudolph.
It's like he's had I think if there's any player besides the whole rookie group that is at a disadvantage from having an abbreviated off season, it's Mason Rudolph, because he could have really used those extra reps. You know what I mean? Not that he was ever going to take starter reps in camp, but it's like he really needed the most work of anybody. And
I guess I'm personally upset because I actually bet on the Steelers with him as starting quarterback a few times, and he's cost me a little bit of coin, so I don't like him. I do not like him.
I will say he was 5-3 in the 8 games that he started. I honestly think that was a luck of the schedule. Really messed him up.
Huh?
That helmet, the whole Browns helmet gate thing really jacked him up. So it's like, I don't know.
Oh, and he didn't really endear me to him. I mean, he's kind of, I realize as an NFL quarterback, you have to have some degree of arrogance or swag, right? Or whatever. But this guy, he just kind of, when I listen to his interviews and what he had to say, man, I was just like, man, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can get with this guy.
Yeah, he is kind of conceited. That's just kind of like how he's very self-centered, just kind of how he is. But, hopefully he, I don't know, man. I just hope it doesn't come down to that.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Now, are you speaking as a journalist or as a fan right now?
Well, I think both. Well, as a journalist, if he comes in, there'd be a lot to write about. I will say that.
Oh, absolutely.
But as a fan, I definitely I would be not very thrilled.
So is it like right now, is this your dream job that you're actually writing and talking about a team that you grew up with?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I think if this whole COVID thing wasn't happening, there would be a possibility where, I might be going up to Pittsburgh if it was a regular camp, you know what I mean? And like, I might be going up to Pittsburgh and covering camp, and that would be, obviously that would be awesome, because I loved going to Buccaneers camp, and I've been to Lions camp and things, but
so I have to ask you, and you've had a sample size of everything, of all these different teams. How awesome is it to get to go to Bucs camp?
Yeah. I mean, it was really great. I mean, anytime you can go to any camp, it's pretty awesome, because you see all these athletes.
A little bit biased, but
No, I
go with it.
Bucs camp was great. I mean, it was cool to see, because Arians, he came from Pittsburgh, so
right.
I've got a lot of love for Bruce Arians, so it was really cool to just be surrounded by so many great minds, you know what I mean, in the NFL. And then when you're around these athletes, I mean, you see them on TV, but you don't really realize, until you're standing right next to them, just how. And I'm only 5 foot, so I don't have, you know what I mean. Like I'm already short coming into it, but it's like, damn, you look at those guys, and my jaw just drops. It's like, holy shit.
So for you, did you actually get to sit down and talk with him one-on-one, or is it one of those things where it was a group of reporters and you guys were all around and you were talking?
Yeah, it was a group. It was a group thing. Yeah,
I see.
Yep.
So just and again, we haven't got to link up since then, because you've just been so busy with with everything that's been going on, and again, that is a testament to how great you are with what you do, and just
Thank you.
putting that out there.
Thanks.
But just kind of getting back to camp, just
Uh-huh.
seeing all these different coaches out there, all these
Mm-hmm.
different drills, all these different things that are going on. How
Mm-hmm.
what because I hear about it, and I
Mm-hmm.
you actually witnessed it
Mm-hmm.
firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
How was that to just see these different coaches working with
Mm-hmm.
different
Mm-hmm.
players getting opportunities? Because from what I've heard, the Bucks have the largest coaching staff in the NFL, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. Yeah, there are. It was wild. I mean, there's players everywhere. Obviously, if they're doing different drills, they're in different groups and things like that. But it is really cool to. It's kind of like a behind the scenes look at the season coming to fruition. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's all this work that they do in training camp
Uh-huh.
is ultimately what you end up seeing once the season starts, once they got their starters and things together. Because I was there toward the end, of training camp where
Right.
they pretty much knew, you know what I mean, like who their starters were going to be, and
Yeah.
and things like that. So
And folks,
yeah,
if
it's
you're
definitely
just joining us, I have Allison Koehler on with me. She's a writer for Pittsburgh Wire, the Steelers Wire for
mm-hmm.
USA Today.
Mm-hmm.
Great friend of the show. She is in Tampa, and just kind of getting her perspective on things. On here on Buck What You Heard. So again, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah,
Um,
no problem.
for you, and I want to take a little segue here.
Mm-hmm.
With COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
being at home,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that you're doing the right thing, just listening to your comments, reading your posts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, with COVID-19, staying at home, how have you adjusted to the new norm?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, it's obviously, when the whole thing started, it was like, what's true, what's not. Do you wear a
Right.
mask? Do you not wear a
Mm-hmm.
mask? Is this a hoax? Is this not a hoax? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I was kind of pretty much going through the whole same rigmarole that everybody
Yeah.
else was. But the way I've been doing it is like, I figure it's not going to kill me to wear a mask. I mean, obviously these days it's more like people are pushing the masks more than they are pro mask,
Right.
than they used to be. So, and the way I look at it is, it's not going to kill me to wear a mask.
Right.
So I'm just going to put it on and just hope that it maybe does something.
You know,
You know
you
what I
know,
mean?
it's interesting. My wife works at the Children's Hospital, and
Mm-hmm.
she's been able to educate me on the importance of the mask.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually watched some videos on airborne particles and stuff like that.
Mm.
So I realize the importance of the mask. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
from day one, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and put this out here. I believe that I had COVID-19 back in January, and I know
Mm-hmm.
people are gonna think I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I was in Spain. I was in Portugal.
Mm.
I mean, I was in Spain. I
Mm-hmm.
was in Morocco, and
Right.
I was around a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
tourists, and going back to England, and then 2 weeks later getting to the United States and having the
Mm-hmm.
worst case of the flu I've ever had in my life, where I
Mm-hmm.
I, I didn't eat for 72 hours. I lost 20
Mm-hmm.
pounds, and
Wow.
I didn't stop coughing for a month.
Mm.
So I really
Yeah.
believe that until I'm gonna go out there and get the antibody test and see
Mm-hmm.
just see for myself. But I'm
Right.
100% convinced, just with everything that's fallen into place and everything that I've read and
Mm-hmm.
learned from reliable sources, that I could have potentially had this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think there were a handful of individuals
yeah.
that felt the same way once
Hmm.
they heard more about what the true coronavirus was.
Right.
They were like, "Hey,
Yeah.
that sounds exactly what I was going through."
And
Yeah.
and I if I were here if I would have stayed stateside and not
Uh-huh.
gone on this vacation that I did,
Right.
I
Yeah.
was out of the country for almost a month, and
Mm-hmm.
getting back and trying to get into the swing of things, and
Mm-hmm.
dealing with health issues the way I did, and feeling like because I've had pneumonia before. So
Mm-hmm.
I can identify that, what pneumonia feels like.
Right.
And just, what I went through and where I am right now, I'm like, man, I'm convinced that this is
Mm-hmm.
something that I had.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So for me, here I am, I'm healthy. I'm good right now. And,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I encourage people to wear a mask. When I go out, I
Mm-hmm.
wear a mask. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
an automatic. I
Right.
ordered I ordered some masks. I'm
Mm-hmm.
University of Kansas alumnus. I ordered some KU masks, so it's just
Right.
a little bit
Yeah.
easier. I got Buccaneer mask if that's what what I need to wear out there. But
Yeah. Yep.
whatever folks need to do
Mm-hmm.
to make
Yeah. I
sure that
agree.
they're
I agree.
not the bottleneck in the process, because
Mm-hmm.
I want football to be here.
Yeah. Me
I
too.
would
Yeah.
love to
Yeah.
have the NBA to have their finals, or the
Mm-hmm.
Major League, hockey, NHL, anything,
Mm-hmm.
because we have not had sports, and a lot of
Right.
this has a big part to do with, I believe, opening up the country too early, to where you have a
Mm-hmm.
spike in these cases, and we really haven't seen the second wave, because we
Right.
haven't gotten
Yeah.
past the first
Exactly.
wave. And
Mm-hmm.
again, this is just my opinion. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
agree with it. And folks that are listening, you don't have to agree with it. It's
Mm-hmm.
just my opinion. But
Right.
just
Yep.
kind of getting back to this, for
Mm-hmm.
me, just sitting at home. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't fill up my car. I didn't fill up my car until, geez, Louise, yesterday. I think from March 16th to
Mm-hmm.
now, I have not been
Yeah.
to a gas station.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So
I think it's been the same for me. I think maybe once, maybe twice at the most, I filled up since the whole thing started going down. So yeah, man. I
yeah,
mean, it's
and,
definitely been strange, and I'm kind of a homebody anyway, you know what
right.
I mean? But even as a homebody, you still get out every once in a while, you know what I mean?
Exactly,
So it's
because
like tough too, and I'm like, dude, I want to go to a
you are in the
restaurant.
greatest city in the world, in Tampa. and and
Right.
I know I'm a little bit, I know I'm biased. No, I'm not biased. You are in the greatest city in the world, Tampa. But I'm gonna say this. I miss it. I miss devil
Mhm.
crab. I miss Cuban sandwiches. I miss
Mhm.
all the good stuff that you are able to experience. Um,
Mhm.
and again, it's wherever you are, just take care of each other. I think
Right.
that's the one
Exactly.
thing that gets lost in all this, is that,
Mhm.
growing up, I remember my grandmother telling me about barn raisings and going to the country to help people put a barn together within a day, where everybody in the community comes together. And
Mhm.
now
Mhm.
we live in a world where everybody's suspicious of everybody else. And
Right.
you I think that's really, that's kind of messed up. And I think we need to
Mhm.
get back to a
Mhm.
place where at least give people the benefit of the doubt, or at least
Right.
try to do your part in the greater good of everything.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's definitely still, that segment of the population that is all about coming together and helping each other out,
I've
but
seen
I
a
just
lot of
think
that.
that, like, we don't see it as much, because if it bleeds, it leads, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the negative is what attracts people. It's what sucks people in. So, but it's also what makes people angry. I mean, I don't think that I mean, I'm sure people have always been angry, you know what I mean? But it's like, it hasn't been as prevalent, you know, as it has these past, this past
Yeah.
6 months. It's just like,
Yeah.
man, people were just a pissed off nation,
Yeah.
you know.
But I look at some certain things, and people all come together and say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is not right. We need to fix
Right.
this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
certain things get lost in the translation. And again, it kind of
Mm-hmm.
goes back to what you do. And
Mm-hmm.
I look at the media, and you see all these different podcasts out there. And I think what's missing is the women's view at times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's important to me. I feel like there are certain perspectives that you get from looking at sports that, you know, you wouldn't normally get. And that's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things that I appreciate, because you know, there are people that will give me grief because, oh, well, you like Jason Light and you don't think, you know, he does any wrong. No, that's not the case. It's just, you know, kind of how I portray things. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, you know, just as an example of some of the DMs that I get sometimes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and again, you know, I want to keep everything in perspective. You know, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, you could tell me something and I may not agree with it, but you know what, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to take a step back and listen to what you have to say.
Right.
I'm always
Yep.
going to do that. And I
Mm-hmm.
wish, if there's anything that anybody could take away from this, is that you don't take anything personal that anybody says on social media, that you take a step back, think about what they said for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
just with no emotion involved, and decide, hey, do they have a point? They don't have a point,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you just keep it moving. But at the end of
Right.
the
Right.
day,
Yeah.
you know, it's good to have a differing opinion, and
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and
Oh,
that gets
yeah. Definitely.
lost in even in sports, because it's
Mm-hmm.
basically, my team is better than your team.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah, and
you,
I don't think that there's enough of people like you and like me that take a step
yeah,
back and, you know, take a moment. They just right away they react and they're on that keyboard and they're pounding it, or they're on their phone and they're just typing away, and it's just
right.
like,
You
man,
are
just
100%
take
right.
take a nap, you know what I mean? Sleep it off.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Go take a
Give it some
shot,
thought.
get a shot, and
Right.
come back with a new frame of mind,
Exactly.
right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And if people shared the same opinions, oh my God, what a more messed up world would it be if everybody had the same
We would be
opinion?
so screwed if people had everybody had the same opinion.
Right. It'd be like a Stepford Wives type thing. You know what I mean? We're all robots.
And you know what?
You know?
I actually watched that 2 weeks ago.
Did you? Yeah. Uh huh. Right. Right. Yeah. It's man the pandemic. It's making us watch Stepford Wives.
Well, you know what? That's actually a good movie,
Uh
and
huh.
I
Uh huh.
actually I like both movies.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And when you say Stepford Wives, are you talking about the new version, or are you talking about the old?
Well, the old, yeah, they're both creepy in their own right, for sure. I've seen, obviously it's been several years since I saw the original version, but
Uh,
I'm a Bette Midler fan, and she
oh,
was in
me too.
Stepford Wives very very briefly, and so that's why I
What's
watched it.
the
But it's
What's the
still been
movie
a
where there are twins with her and Lily Tomlin?
big business.
I
Yeah,
love
it's a great movie. Yeah,
I love that
it's
movie.
awesome. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
good stuff.
where that, yeah, what is it? Jupiter Hollow. Yeah, that
Yeah.
movie
Uh
is
huh.
so awesome.
Yep. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, see, you should go and try and dig that up tonight, and watch it.
You know what? I
Good stuff.
actually own it.
Do you? Is it
Yes.
on tape though, or is it
No, it's
DVD?
on. Well, see, I have a Vudu account, so
Oh, okay,
I
nice.
I get movies. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so funny. I was looking at the list of movies that I have, and it
Mhm.
spans from like 1934
Right.
to 2019. So
Yeah.
you know, my movie genre just goes all
You're
over the board.
cultured.
You kind of have to be. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
you know,
Mhm.
like I'm not the old man get off my lawn guy. You know,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I listen to Cardi B. I listen to, you
Mhm.
know, I listen to some of the new hip hop, and
Mhm.
you know, I you know, the most important thing to me is
Mhm.
that, and my father taught me this, because my father, in you know, we were stationed in Fort Hood,
Mhm.
and we were listening to what was it, Grandmaster Flash. My
Oh,
father's got
awesome.
freaking rap music on. You know,
Right.
he's you know, he's sergeant major in the military, and he's got,
Mhm.
you know, he's got Grandmaster Flash on it, and you know, I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, you know, my dad's cool, and my friends
Right.
have always thought my dad was cool, because he
Mhm.
always stuck with the latest music, and
Yeah.
he wasn't that get off my lawn guy who's like, oh,
Mhm.
your
Mhm.
generation's music is trash and blah blah blah.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
but you know, living in Germany, being in Germany was cool too, because it's like, you know, they had a lot of the Motown, a lot of the rock music from the late 60s all the way through the 70s, you know. So you know, it taught me to have a greater appreciation for music as a whole.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Music is, they always say, you know, when they, if you were deserted on an island, you know, what's the one thing you couldn't live without? And I always say music, man,
Oh
because it's
wow.
like, I mean, as much as
I
love
would
TV,
love if I were on a deserted island, I think the only thing I would need would be my Spotify account.
Right there, yeah, exactly. Exactly. As long as there's Wi-Fi, right?
Exactly.
That's the only concern.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's music makes the world go round, man. It's like,
so. I mean,
you know,
if you had to say your
mood.
go-to, what would be your go-to genre of music? I mean, like for me, I like country, but I only like old country. I don't. The new country
yeah, same
is,
here. Same here.
The
Yeah,
new country is
I
atrocious.
would say rock and roll. I mean, I know it's a very broad genre, but
so I mean,
you know,
are we talking like Leonard Skinner? Are we talking Kansas?
I like Eric Clapton and
Eric
Tom
Clapton,
Petty,
yeah,
Led
Cream.
Zeppelin. You know, like
So when you say Eric Clapton, are we talking Cream or are we talking Eric Clapton here?
We're talking all of his bands. So he had, you know, Derek at the Dominoes. You know, they did Layla.
Yes,
and definitely Cream. I mean, they're awesome. Even Blind Faith. He was in a band
Ulysses,
called Blind Faith.
the what is it? The song of Ulysses that he.
Yeah, Tales of Great Ulysses.
Yeah, the Tales of Great Ulysses. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So I mean, all of his stuff. I mean, I love Bob Dylan. You know, rock and roll is where it's at, but I also like, you know, I like doo-wop. I like 50s, like early 50s stuff, and you know, even some stuff from the 40s. You know, some of the swing music.
And when you say that, it's funny because I've got like Little Richard. You know, I've got this weird playlist, and the playlist goes from like the 40s to 2019. Where I've got little Uzi Vert to you know, you go all the way back to Bing Crosby,
right?
So
yeah, man,
so
awesome.
I put that on shuffle, and it's just weird. You never know.
Yeah,
you never know what you're gonna hear.
You'll hear something from the 40s.
You might hear Nat King Cole.
Like,
you might hear Nat King Cole. You may hear what is it, Ariana Grande. So it just kind of depends on what you got there, and I think that's really cool to be able to span so many different decades of music, and you know, you still have that thing going on.
Yeah, definitely. That's where it's at, no doubt.
Yeah, there you go. Will the Brewer saying it takes good music to make good beer.
Oh, well, that's very true. I would imagine.
That is prophetic.
But I'd imagine he's very right.
Well,
yeah,
you know, for me and anybody that knows me, that follows me on Twitter or follows me on social media, they know that Cigar City is my favorite beer.
There you
that
go.
is my favorite beer of all times, and I do support Tampa as much as I can. And you know, you will see me. As a matter of fact, I had on a Cigar City T-shirt earlier,
nice.
but I had to go outside and mail out a package, so I had to, you know, get on my COVID gear and prepare for the worst, you know. But
hazmat suit and everything.
So for you, have you had to give anything up? Is there anything, have you gone to your hairstylist or got your toes done, or
so funny that you mentioned that. I literally just went today at 2:00. I had a hair appointment because it was like, it had been October was the last time I got my hair cut. And for a girl it's different because it's like,
I can't relate.
For me anyway, all it does is get long. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, some dudes, like, I've seen their hair and it just gets big and round. And I'm like, I actually like it.
My friend Shooter from Shooter in the Stash, he's growing a mullet.
I love those guys.
He's growing a mullet.
Nice.
And I'm encouraging him to grow a mullet and get the spiral perm on the mullet.
Perm.
I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's, and maybe some blonde highlights. But I really want that Jean-Claude Van Damme mullet. I want to see that from him, because you know, there would be nothing greater than to see that from Shooter.
This is true. I vote for that. I agree.
You know, it is so funny because videos. You know, on Twitter, I'm heavy on Twitter. I don't like talking sports on Facebook because too many psychopaths. But I digress. So I put up a voting thing, you know, to say, you know, does Shooter grow out his mullet or does he cut it off? And,
Right.
basically everybody said, let's see this guy grow his mullet out. So I'm really hoping that, he shares this with his wife and he gets some blonde highlights and gets the spiral perm. I think
dude.
the mullet would be perfect. To the 2020 mullet. I even sent him a picture of Billy Ray Cyrus because I think that is what you strive for with a genuine mullet.
Right, no doubt. That's hilarious.
Am I wrong? I mean, when you think think about a mullet, now seriously,
right.
and you maybe you could relate, maybe not. When you think about the word mullet, who comes to mind for you?
Oh man. Oh geez. Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
You've got this.
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of go lame and say, my brother, only because, and I know nobody knows him except for, me, but he was rocking this mullet, man. I don't even know what year it was. It was some kind of crazy year, but he had this crazy mullet. But yeah, man, I can't get the whole Billy Ray Cyrus mullet out of my head right now. So now that's stuck with me for the rest of the day, at least.
Well, you know what? I had to go with Billy Ray Cyrus because he's the only person that everybody knows. My uncle,
right?
You will crack up about this. You remember the Jerry curl?
Yes.
My uncle had a Jerry curl mullet, and yes, and it freaking worked too. His curls were perfect in the back, and he had all the sides were shaved off, and the top. It was business in the front, party in the back, for real.
That's awesome.
It's the real deal. So, to me, when I think about a mullet, I'm like, man, there is so much you can do with this. And that's why I encourage Shooter. He's probably not listening. I think he stopped listening to us because I guess the Bucks cheerleaders have a live event on Instagram. So.
Oh, well, nobody's listening to us then.
Yeah,
that's for
nobody's paying attention to what we have to say. So, what I want to do, because you are such a special person to me, I have 10 questions that you can answer. You can answer in one. I'm going to give you a minute. I'm actually getting I'm getting my timer set here.
Okay.
This is going to be exciting. Questions are very easy. It's from around the NFL. And the questions are going to be buy or sell or yes or no. Nothing that requires a whole lot of thought.
Good. Okay, that's perfect.
So just so you know, and I know that you're going to do good because you are a smart sports mind.
Okay.
I already know this. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you the first question, and as soon as I finish the question, I'm going to start the timer. And I know that you're going to be done before you're going to be totally done before the 1 minute is up.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. So here we go. The first question: Mason Rudolph is an NFL starter. Buy or sell?
Sell.
The Cleveland Browns will make it to the playoffs. Buy or sell?
Sell.
Ben Roethlisberger will retire after 2020. Buy or sell?
Sell.
Michael Thomas is the NFL's biggest crybaby. Buy or sell?
Buy.
The Baltimore Ravens will be in the Super Bowl. Buy or sell?
I'm gonna sell that.
Tom Brady is the missing piece and will make the Tampa Bay Buccaneers contenders. Buy or sell?
I'm buying.
The Dallas Cowboys will be playoff contenders or pretenders.
It's tough. I'm gonna say contenders.
5 seconds. Cincinnati Bengals will win more than 6 games. Buy or sell?
Win more than 6 games. Sell.
Tua will win the NFL Rookie of the Year. Buy or sell?
Sell.
Mike Tomlin will come back as the Steelers head coach. Buy or sell? 2021.
Buy.
All right. Thank you
Yeah.
for answering. I had to go through. You were a minute and 17 seconds. I know the
Nice.
question that I got you with the Baltimore Ravens kind of stuck with you, and then the Dallas
Uh-huh.
Cowboys hurt
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
you were
just,
17 seconds off, but you
right.
answered all the questions.
Well, there we go. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely the Cowboys one got me. And yeah, I mean, the Ravens, it's like,
I know it's tough. It's but
yeah,
as you have to like take the fan side away and work with
exactly.
the journalist side of it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Be more objective. Yes.
As much as you don't want to be.
Exactly right.
So I have to ask you, what is
Yeah.
the next big thing that you have coming your way? I mean, what are you working on? Are you working on any stories or anything that we can kind of look forward to?
Oh man. It's just kind of whatever comes up. I'd love to be able to say, yeah, definitely, because I do this weekly series for Steelers Wire, which is basically the history of the Steelers versus their 2020 opponents.
Uh-huh.
So that's been a lot of fun because a lot of their history is deep. Like the Giants, they go back to like the 1933. You know what I mean? So that history is pretty deep. And last week I did the Browns. I'm basically going by their schedule. So, week 1 was the Giants because they're playing week 1. And last week, I did the Browns. And then this one coming up is the Ravens. And obviously their history is deep, but the Ravens haven't been around, as long as their other opponents. So
they won Super Bowls.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, man. Ugh.
I will say this. I was a season ticket holder when the Steelers came to Tampa, and I have to tell you, dealing with Steelers fans was amazing. It truly was. Just where we hung out, where we partied at, where we tailgated at. I mean, it was just I've never had so much fun outside of hanging with Bucks fans.
Right.
I can tell you, going to the Outback Bowl every year, getting to meet people from Wisconsin, getting to meet people from, just all over the Big Ten. And then, you have the Steelers come in and just how hospitable the fan base was. I can honestly say I appreciate them a lot. More so because, Mike Tomlin is your head coach, but, I won't put that out there. I'm not going to put that out there. But, that is kind of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Steelers fans travel well. It's
they
really
do.
impressive.
And I tell you what, man, it's just crazy. Regardless of what their season looks like, their team just travels well.
Right. Yep. No doubt. They're playing in Jacksonville this year, so I'm hoping that there's a season, and because I'll be there.
Oh, so you're gonna go up to Jack and Kill and watch him play? All right.
Jack and Kill, yes, I will.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, I remember we had a disaster recovery team, and I had to actually go and stay in Jack and Kill, and because and I can say this now. There's I don't sign a non-disclosure or anything. We had an office in Oklahoma City, and we were at the time a subsidiary of Verizon.
Okay.
So they're like, well, we want you guys to go to Jacksonville and set up the disaster recovery. And you will not believe this, but the hurricane came right up the middle of Florida and hit Jacksonville. So when I got back to work, I was mad because I was put in harm's way. Instead of listening to me and saying, okay, let's put the disaster recovery center in Oklahoma City. No, they had us sitting in Jacksonville and put us in harm's way. And I was so mad. You have no idea how mad I was.
Right.
So I got some questions in the chat, and one of the questions I have to ask, how familiar are you with Tristan Wirfs?
Not all that don't really know anything about the guy.
Okay. And, just based on your college history, think you went to ASU? Am I right?
Online.
Online. Okay. So you went to ASU. Yeah. And so basically, like me, I'm a University of Kansas alumnus, and, football was not a big thing. So Aqib Talib,
Right.
to me, probably Aqib Talib and Gale Sayers are the two biggest names to come out of Kansas that
Right.
I can really think of. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything, in a bad way, because I'm right there with you. And
Mm-hmm.
as far as football goes, Kansas has not always been the go-to when you talk about
Right.
football,
Yeah.
unless it was Aqib Talib, who I forgot who he beat up, but he beat up somebody at KU, and then there was Gale Sayers. So
Right,
I'll leave
yeah,
that, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I appreciate you being on with me. I think this was awesome.
Yeah,
You
it's
getting to
fun.
come on and talk with me, and share some of your experiences, and I really appreciate that.
No doubt, man. No, I appreciate you having me on for sure.
Yeah. And this is the one thing we all have to work together. We all have to kind of stick together to support each other. I know you're not a big Twitter person. Yeah, I know you're more, you put your articles out, your articles are out. You're more of a traditional, just based on my experience with you, you're very, very traditional.
Right. Yep.
But
Yep.
when
I'm trying to get better at Twitter, though. I'm trying.
I encourage Twitter. I'm sorry, I hate Facebook, and because all the psychopaths. I don't care what fan base. Every fringe, whatever fringe it is, whatever team it is, they dwell on Facebook. But
they do, no doubt.
But with Twitter, for some reason, these fools get reined in, and they can't be as crazy as they can be with the hot takes on Facebook that they can.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I as much as I am still pretty much a Twitter novice, I have noticed already, the difference between the users of Twitter versus the users of Facebook, and it's definitely a world of differences. For
yeah,
sure,
I've got I've got a lot of friends, the Redskins, the the Saints, the Atlanta, a lot of your brethren from the wire groups are on Twitter, and I think that's how you really get to blow up, is by being around these people and cross promoting and stuff. And again, you're one of those people. I really hope that if you can get a podcast going, I think it would be awesome. I think it would be something that you'd be very good at. I mean, just based on our interaction here, I think it would be awesome if you could do that. I would listen.
Right. Awesome. I have a listener already, and I don't even have a podcast.
Exactly.
That's great.
And this is one of the things that I was really hoping that Allison would come up with this podcast, and she would emerge out of COVID-19 with her own podcast.
Right? Yeah. Maybe someday.
I know it will happen. I mean, you got the resources.
Yeah,
you just
I do. Right. Yeah.
So we'll make that happen. Hopefully we'll make that
yes. Right.
Well, guys, that's pretty much it for me. What we do before I roll out is I do a final thought. And for you, whether it could be something world events, whether it could be what's going on in sports, or just whatever, give me your final thought, and then I'll give mine, and we'll roll out of here.
My final thought is I really, really, really hope there's a football season this year, because I just don't even know what I'm going to do with myself. I feel bad for the baseball fans, because it's like when this first started, I was like, oh man, football's so far away. We're not even going to have to worry if this is going to be all over by the time, September rolls around, and here we are. And it's like, so now I'm starting to feel baseball fans pain. So hopefully it'll just all, come together, organized to where they can make it happen without harming too many players.
All right. Well, for me, and I want to kind of piggyback off of this right here. And I think I mentioned this earlier. You can tell a lot about how people are by how they treat people less fortunate than themselves. I really believe that, people like you, Allison, and other people that are open-minded and just put out what they believe that is going on. I think that's what's really needed in the world. I've seen so much good, so many articles about good things that have happened for people throughout COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
that in my mind, if I take a step back and look at everything, it overshadows a lot of the bad things that have happened just because of a lot of the good and people realizing that, they can come in and help each other. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that is great. I think that's important. And for me, and my final thought, uh, you know, whether it's football or not,
Mm-hmm.
football is everything. Everything else is just details. I'm gonna put that out
Mm-hmm.
there because
Right, you should.
I'm a football person. I mean, I love football. I love
Yeah.
baseball, and
Mm-hmm.
I love basketball. I love sports.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think taking away sports and giving us an opportunity to reflect and look at each other,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it puts things in perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
it makes you want to reach out to people that you respect or you care about, or friends like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
having the opportunity to listen to you and in social media, and
Mm-hmm.
just getting your thoughts on certain things. Yeah, I think that's important, and I hope
Mm-hmm.
that we can work together. Um, I'm working on some other things, outside of just the Bucks, but I would like to do
Mm-hmm.
more with sports in general. And
Mm-hmm.
just having allies like yourself that I can work with and talk to. I think that's something that I really want to strive for. So
Yeah,
again,
most definitely.
I know this is kind of a unique show, but I don't put myself in any niche or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. I just like that, you can get good people on and have good content and great conversations on stuff. So
Yeah, I
it's
agree with that, man, for sure.
it's
No
definitely
doubt.
something that I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter. Yeah, my Steelers. I have like four. I have like 4 or 5 different profiles. I have one when I worked for the XFL, and I have a personal one, but the Steelers Wire one, I'm Steelers Wire AK on
All
Twitter.
right. Well, if you're not following me, please follow me. I would love, because I always encourage people to listen to other perspectives outside of the Buccaneers because I think
Mm-hmm.
that gets missed a lot in the translation.
Mm-hmm.
And just educating yourself on football as a whole, I think, is important. So,
Yeah, I'll
um,
definitely. I think I already followed you on my Bucks report one, but I will go. But since I don't work for the Bucks report anymore, I will go on my Steelers Wire one right now, and I will follow you.
all right, that's
Darn
what's
it.
up. That is what's up. Yeah, make that.
Yeah.
Let's make that happen. And
Yes.
again, I will put out this link. I'm glad you were able to come on,
Me
guys.
too.
Tomorrow I will have Evan on with me. Evan Winter from Bucks Nation. I will have him on, and again this week I will have some different listeners on, and it's going to be a fun show. But Allison, thank you so much. You are greatly
Thank you, Jim.
appreciated. Keep doing what
You
you're
as well.
doing.
I will.
Your hard work will pay off.
Thank you, man. Thanks. Thanks a lot for having me, and have a great show tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much. Once again,
All
this
right.
is Allison Koehler. You can follow her on Twitter. I think she put out her Twitter
My
handle.
handle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Twitter handle. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
drawing a blank here. But anyway, we are out of here. Guys, thank you so much. And everybody